Welcome back, everyone. This is the Oracle Decodes the Venus symbol, the heart symbol, the Empress, and the Emperor. Since we recently just decoded the Devil in our video, The Oracle Decodes the Devil, Satan, and Lucifer, and we learned there about the mind-blowing discoveries made about the travels of the planet Venus, and how the number 15 of the major arcana of the tarot deck encodes for Venus's travels right in plain sight on the Devil card. So we can take what we've learned where we began there, looking first at the number 2 card that we've already decoded, the High Priestess card. Now we can get back to decoding in order what is next in the major arcana of the tarot deck, the number 3 card, the Empress, and take a look at what she has to teach us about what I call the real all-seeing eye, or the real oracle in the sky, in the way that it works. At least we're going to take a look in this piece at this one part of its many magnificent parts that it shares with us to see. The summer solstice at high noon in the northern hemisphere is where we've queued up a screenshot in stellarium to begin again, because as we've seen in decoding these major arcana of the tarot deck cards, we're learning that this is helping us to properly decode one way to read the sky clock story that is turned in the same ways, perhaps eternally, above all of our heads. So remember that the High Priestess encodes for the same time and position on Earth for us to look up and see the High Priestess's position on the throne at the cross of the north-south meridian line and the arc of the ecliptic, with the planet Venus right in the middle of her crown. And that is the constellation known as Taurus the Bull. This same alignment of Venus with Taurus is something that we've seen in many decodings at this point, occurring at this time of year, at least in this year, what we commonly call the year 2020, where the planet Venus is right in the bullseye area of the constellation of Taurus. And as we learned in our previous decoding, it's the first constellation we saw when we decoded the Devil card that the planet Venus can be found along her travels in an 8-year cycle that she repeats. So with all this in mind, let's look at the symbols shown on the number 3 card of the major arcana of the tarot deck, the Empress. Notice right away that the background color is that sunny yellow again, cluing us into a noontime sky story. All the trees behind her are both fully leafed and green, indicating it's the summer season, obviously, when plants are in bloom and trees are green, along with what looks like crops of grain growing at her feet, also indicating the summer season. Her crown, you can see if you look closer, is one of many 8-pointed stars. Now this encodes also for the planet of Venus 8-year cycle, as you will see, and she's holding also a golden sphere-top scepter in her hand. Overall, the Empress represents the planet Venus, and we're told as much with that famous Venus symbol in the heart there on the card, that famous circle with a cross attached. This is an obvious symbolic reference, and familiar to many, to the planet Venus. So let's get to the heart of the matter then, to what the Empress is telling us here, specifically about Venus's travels in the noontime sky on the summer solstice. So we're looking again, going year over year. So we're going to what we commonly call 2021 on the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere, where you can find Venus this time in the constellation of Gemini, or the twins. Year 3 of Venus's 8-year cycle is what we commonly call 2022. And Venus this time is back in the constellation of Taurus again, but more westward this time than she was when we found her in year 1. So as you can see, this is the same pattern that we're watching again, Venus travel over 8 years. And the first time we did this in the underworld, or in hell with the devil, remember, from the upside down view from our perspective. And that results when you draw out Venus's 8-year cycle and her travels, you get the inverted pentagram symbol. So what we're doing here, you can see, is the same thing. We're tracking Venus's 8-year cycle, but we're doing it from the opposite perspective, from when we looked at it with the Devil card. This is the noontime, right side up view that we're taking a look at here. The 8-year cycle of Venus's travels is what we're seeing the Empress shows us how to properly decode. So we're going forward to the year we commonly call 2023, or year 4 of Venus's cycle, and we find her just to the east of the constellation of Cancer. Going forward to what we commonly call 2024, which is year 5, we find Venus right in alignment with the Sun in Orion's outstretched hand. In what we commonly call 2025, which would be year 6, we find Venus above the head of the constellation of Cetus the Whale. And then in year 7 of Venus's cycle, in what we commonly call 2026, Venus is found right in the middle this time of the constellation again of Cancer the Crab. And as we saw in previous decodings, the ancient Egyptians looked up at the same constellation and saw not a crab, but a scarab beetle. And as we learned when we were decoding the Devil and taking a look at the same 8-year cycle of the planet Venus, we learned that this Cancer the Crab constellation, or the beetle, is where the famous beetles took their name from to honor. So here in what we commonly call 2027, the 8th or final year of Venus's cycle, we find the planet Venus on her throne, right in the middle of the cross of the north-south meridian line and the arc of the ecliptic, and above her location at this time, you can find her crown. Now take a look, because of both its location and the way that it's shaped, the constellation of Auriga is the Empress's crown, but on the tarot card, it's a crown of 8 pointed stars, definitely cluing us into Venus's 8-year cycle that this screenshot shows the end position of, before it's going to repeat again every 8 years, maybe eternally. So when you combine the shape and the location of Auriga, and put that with the cross of the north-south meridian line and the arc of the ecliptic below it, where at the end position of Venus's 8-year cycle, the planet Venus sits, you can see how the constellation of Auriga and the cross below it at this time, which the planet Venus sits, is where the famous Venus symbol comes from, as well as perhaps an even more famous symbol, the heart. It's down there by the Empress's feet surrounding that Venus symbol. This is just one reason the planet Venus is associated with romantic love and the symbol of the heart, as the Empress helps us to see right to the heart of the matter, the ending of the 8-year cycle of the planet Venus, where the planet Venus sits right in the heart of the real oracle, or the real all-seeing eye in the sky. So we'll end this one with, I think in comparison to what we just did, a rather simple decoding. The next major arcana card of the tarot deck, the number 4 card, the Emperor, is what we're looking at next. Because he's next in order in the tarot deck, and he's next in order in the sky story picture, of course, looking still high noon on the summer solstice here in the northern hemisphere, the Emperor encodes simply for the constellation of Aries in the sky story. The rams on the Emperor's throne encodes for Aries the ram directly. But when you take a look at his age and the orange background while he's sitting on the throne there, it's both of these in combination also with the mountains behind him, telling the viewer of the Emperor card that his time in the position of the sunny yellow noontime sky has passed. That's why it's orange and why he's aging on the throne. This is encoding for the constellation of Aries with the sun behind him. He has already reached the peak or the top of the mountain, right? The mountains are now behind him. And the orange glow of the sky representing that the sun is behind him and he is in front of it, as you can see in the sky story picture here. And during this time of the year, Aries will descend or die into the western horizon of the earth first. So in other words, this old king on the throne will die before his son in the sky story. And the emperor's time will then end. I think this is a good place to end this short piece, and we'll pick it back up in our next decoding. Until then, be well.